Lynette, are you ready to hit start?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting of the Planning and Transportation Commission of San Carlos on the 26th of June. We have, I believe, no Assembly Bill 2449 teleconference requests.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. So therefore, with that, would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Garvey.
Present.
Commissioner Roof.
Present.
Commissioner Castaneda.
Present.
And Chair Iacopone.
Present.
And for the record, Commissioner Clemens is not joining us today due to proximity to the subject site in question of today's agenda.
Very good. Thank you, Lisa. We're now on agenda item 5, public comment. Public comment is limited to items not on the agenda. The Commission may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed as allowed by the Brown Act, Government Code Section 54954.2. However, the Commission's general policy is to refer items to staff for attention or have a matter placed on a future Commission agenda for more comprehensive action or report. So here in the room, are there any members of the public who would like to speak on a matter not on today's agenda? And seeing none, Lynette, are there any hands raised for public comment?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. Which then moves us to new business and our item for today. The determination of conformity with the general plan for the acquisition and disposition by the city of properties at 1800 El Camino Real and 1131 to 1133 Eaton Avenue with the APNs as described in the agenda packet and materials pursuant to California Government Code Section 65402. And I think we'll start with a presentation by staff.
That's right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Megan Woolley-Osdahl, the Principal Planner in the current Planning Division. And before you this afternoon is a determination of conformity with the general plan for the acquisition and disposition by the city of properties at 1800 El Camino Real and 1131 and 1133 Eaton Avenue. So we're bringing this item before you because state law requires that the Planning and Transportation Commission assess consistency or conformance with the city's adopted general plan prior to property acquisition or disposition. The Housing Authority intends to acquire the properties at 1800 El Camino Real and 1131 and 1133 Eaton Avenue from the current property owners, and later to market the properties as an affordable housing opportunity site. During the City Council meeting this evening, the Council will be considering the acquisition of these properties for potential future affordable housing development and will be considering authorizing the City Manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement. Adam Aronson, our Economic Development and Housing Manager, is here today at the meeting and available to answer any questions about the project. So to give you a sense of where these properties are located, they're at the intersection of El Camino Real and Eaton Avenue. 1800 El Camino Real currently is the site of Carl's Jr. And 1131, 1133 Eaton Avenue currently houses a two-story building and on the bottom floor, Lana Thai Massage is located at the site. The acquisition and disposition of the properties for residential development is consistent with the general plan goals and policies staff finds, as shown on this slide. And the finding of consistency is exempt from the provisions of CEQA, since the acquisition and disposition of property will not have an impact on the environment. A CEQA analysis will be conducted during the entitlements phase of any future project. So a public notice is not required for a determination of conformity with the general plan for acquisition and disposition of property, and thus far we've received no public comments on this item. Staff recommends that the Planning and Transportation Commission adopt a resolution which finds that the acquisition and disposition of the properties at 1800 El Camino Real and 1131 and 1133 Eaton Avenue are in conformity with the adopted City of San Carlos General Plan. And here's a motion, should you choose, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Megan. Colleagues, let's start with clarifying questions for staff. Commissioner Garvey.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the rendering, who owns the parking lot that's adjacent to the properties on Eaton? That's not associated with this project, right? That must be associated with the office complex that's, see that?
Yes.
Right, that's not a part of this. That's owned by somebody else.
That's right. So
Okay.
only the two properties that we're considering are the ones in the blue area. I'm going to look to Adam to say that, the other parking lot is not under consideration for acquisition at this time.
Okay.
Or at all.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Roof, Commissioner Castaneda?
No clarifying from me.
Okay, thank you. One for me, and maybe this is for Adam. If developed as you envision, how many new below market rate housing units might we anticipate?
Sure. So thank you very much, Chair and Commission. So far we've just looked very preconceptually at the site, but we believe about 90 units could go on the two parcels that are identified here. And then during the escrow period, we'll be doing some more due diligence on the property where we'll develop concept plans with an architect to get a more realistic idea of what can actually be built on site.
That's great, thank you. In terms of from today through to, let's say, the start of construction, order of magnitude, is that like 24 months in your mind, 18 months? What would you?
I would say it's at least a couple of years. You know, it'll take some time after we acquire the site to then release a request for proposals to solicit interest from affordable housing developers and to select one and go through the process of a development agreement and everything, and then entitlements. And so it's still a ways out.
Great, thank you very much.
Actually, I do have.
Yeah, Commissioner Roof.
My question, actually, it's not needed to decide whether it conforms, but I'm just curious, the funding for the purchase, where does that come from?
So that's a very good question. The funding comes from the Affordable Housing in Lieu Fund, and generally that comes from commercial linkage fees that are paid by the larger commercial projects happening on the east side of the city. In this instance, our affordable housing funds are fairly tapped out at the moment, so we are taking a loan from the city's Strategic Property Acquisition Reserve Fund, and then the intent is to very quickly, over the next few months, pay that back as commercial linkage fees come in from the projects on the east side.
Okay, good to hear that that system is working.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Garvey?
One last question for you, Adam. On the rendering, it shows the two properties as being two separate properties. Once you purchase them, is there anything that precludes you from combining them? If you wanted to put just one larger building in the middle of that, you could, in it, for all intents and purposes, adjoin and combine those properties into one project?
That's right.
Yeah.
The intent is to do one building across both properties.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And maybe just one follow-up from me. In reading the policies, it strikes me as very consistent, the nature of the project with the policy. will the site be limited to housing, or is there flexibility for mixed use? I believe it's zoned mixed use, yes?
So in all likelihood, the project will be 100% housing. We are actually acquiring it through the power of the Housing Authority, which could potentially limit our ability to put a mixed-use project on the site.
I see, okay. Good, well, thank you. No further follow-up from me. Do we have anyone present who would like to make a comment? Yes. Please come on up to the podium, and if you could share your name, and then we offer speakers 2 minutes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Andre Alexif, and I live at 1257 Eaton Avenue. And my wife and I have lived there since 1994. And we've raised 3 sons there, and 2 are still living with us. So we're just really a stone's throw away from this project. And 90 units is, I guess you could say, kind of gobsmacking number for us. But we have faith in the city that you're going to do the right thing. But there's a couple of things that catch my attention. And one would be parking. Normally, on a big project, there would be underground parking. But if you remember, this abuts Cordilleras Creek. And if you remember this year, and not every year, we had a big rainy year this year. And Cordilleras Creek flooded, and it flooded onto Eaton Avenue. It flooded Carl's Jr., it flooded onto El Camino, it flooded to the parking lot of that office space, which does not included in the parcel that you're talking about purchasing. Also, if you're going to go deep to include parking, you're going to hit water. Now, of course, there are engineers that can put footings for the Golden Gate Bridge. So I'm sure that it's possible to put footings and put a garage where there's water, but it also becomes very expensive. So I would like to remind you to please consider that in whatever plans that you have. And also please consider the neighbors. Just a few years ago, when the San Francisco Giants had a terrific season, and there was a lot of activity at the office bar, there was parking. People were parking everywhere. They were parking in people's driveway, and it didn't take much to cause havoc for our whole neighborhood. So when you start talking about 90 units, and I don't know how many cars you have in your family, but we have 3, and we can on our property we can put 3 cars. But if you have 1 parking spot for each unit, 90 spots, that means people are going to be parking on the street. That means people are going to be parking all over Eaton Avenue. There's limited parking. You can only park for 2 hours on Laurel and on parts of Eaton Avenue. So that means that they're going to be parking all the way up on Eaton Avenue. So it's for the neighbors, it's going to be a big nuisance. So it's probably going to have to be some kind of park. I know that there was a project a few years ago thinking about parking for the neighborhood, and that may need to be revisited.
Okay. Thank you. I want to be respectful of your comments, but also we also try to have a time limit.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Okay.
That's all I had to say.
Good.
So, but it's all kind of related to the same thing. So I'd like to thank you, and good luck on your project.
Good. Thank you very much. And I'm sure Adam is taking note of the concern of parking, which is a pretty common theme in the projects that we do. So thank you for coming and sharing. Are there others? Yeah. If you could please come on up and.
I'll take my 2 minutes.
That's fine. Thank you.
My name is Bruce Beakley, and I live at 1351 Eaton Avenue.
Bruce, welcome.
So I'll ask the designer, what's the plan for parking?
Sir, our procedure is that you address the commission, and if they would like to ask any follow-up questions to staff, they certainly
Commission,
will.
when will we find out what's going to happen with parking?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to, let me ask staff to comment both on the status of the design and when more about parking might be known.
Yeah, that's a great, because parking is part of the design.
Thank you, Bruce.
So at this time, everything is still very preliminary. We're only looking at the acquisition of the site. No designs or concepts have been prepared yet. During the escrow period, there will be some very preliminary designs to determine what is a reasonable number of units, and including what is the parking situation on site, how does that work with the creek. Potentially, are there opportunities to address some of the creek flooding through this project? And then we're looking at probably a year or two from now when more solid designs come about that are actually saying this is the exact number of parking spaces and the number of units that can be built on the property.
Great, thank you for that. And maybe, sorry, Adam, one more. I think it's customary for city staff in a project like this and the developer to do community outreach. So maybe you could just share a little bit about what our fellow residents might expect in the way of outreach.
Yes, that's correct. So as these projects progress and once a developer is selected, there is always a community outreach meeting held before the project would go to the Planning Commission. And so all of the neighbors in the area would be alerted to when that meeting is going to occur. And prior to that as well, be given a chance to provide feedback ahead of time on their concerns and questions. And then that meeting would be an opportunity for everyone to see the exact plans that have been developed, share any concerns that they may have with what has been developed, and give the developers a chance to go back and perhaps amend things to better suit the needs of the community.
Great, thank you. And I think we have 2 public comments on the record about parking, so I know it'll be on your mind.
Yes.
Thank you, Adam. Lynette, have we any hands raised for callers?
There are no hands raised.
And are there any other requests to comment here in the room? Yes, please. Please come up to the podium. And if you could state your name, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Ellen Alexev, and I live at 1257 Eaton. I just have a question. I don't understand what do you consider affordable housing? I have 2 sons living at home.
Very good. That's a great question. Maybe one of our staff members could share the definition and how affordable housing is considered.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, living on Eaton for as long as we have, we can always tell who the residents are and who the commuters are. Our street is narrow and it's windy, and the commuters just zip on down from Alameda to El Camino, whereas the rest of us residents are nice, and we pull over and we drive slow. So if when planning this project to, well, I don't know. I don't know what you could do to help mitigate all the reckless driving on Eaton, but that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you very much. Maybe if a little description of affordable housing could be made, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So the technical definition of affordable housing, there's a number of different ranges. It can go anywhere up to 120% of area median income. That's not likely what will happen at this project. This project will likely be at lower income levels, so extremely low, very low, and low income. So that's more likely 30% of the area median income, 40%, and 50%. It's still early phases, so we don't know for sure that that's what the income breakdown will be, but that's most likely what it is for projects of this size and magnitude. And what that income looks like in person varies by household size. But for a single person, for example, I believe that 50% of the area median income is around $60,000 a year right now.
Thank you. Maybe one last check, Lynette, if there are any hands raised.
There are no hands raised.
I'd entertain a motion to close public comment.
I'll move that we close the public comment period.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Roof,
Yes.
Commissioner Castaneda,
Yes.
and Chair Iacoponi.
Yes. Thank you. Commissioners, since it seems like our questions have been answered, maybe your positions and any thoughts? Commissioner Roof?
It seems to me very straightforward that this type of project is consistent with the general plan and meets a really important need in our community to have the full range of housing available for different incomes. And so it certainly seems like a great idea. At this point of property acquisition, a lot of the questions about the development design, of course, are in the future. If the city doesn't buy the land, then a private developer probably would, and would be putting up an apartment building that would have similar issues. So I so I'm supportive.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Castaneda?
I agree that the project is within the public plan. And I think it's important, to have the affordable housing, so I support the project.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Garvey?
Thank you, Chair. With respect to affordable housing, I want to echo what my colleagues have said. I'm very supportive of this project, bringing more affordable housing to the city of San Carlos. And this project will help the city take a major step forward in meeting its RHNA housing numbers that have been allocated to us by the state. The other thing I like about this project is I think it might be equidistant between the San Carlos train station and the Redwood City train station, in addition to being along a Samtrans bus route. So if someone living here wanted to go north, they could easily take a Samtrans bus to the north or to the south and be at a train station in about a mile. So I too believe that this project conforms with the general plan, and I support the project.
Very good, thank you. And I would endorse the comments of my colleagues in support of the project, and therefore agree that it is in conformance with the general plan. And so with that, I think if we have our motion, would someone care to make the motion?
I can make a motion.
Please.
I move that the Planning and Transportation Commission adopt a resolution finding the acquisition and disposition of the properties at 1800 El Camino Real, APN 051-379-010 and 051-379-020 and 030, and 1131, 1133 Eaton Avenue, which are APN 051-379-040 and 050 and 060, are in conformity with the City of San Carlos General Plan.
Thank you. A second? I will second.
Commissioner Garvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Roof,
Yes.
Commissioner Castaneda,
Yes.
and Chair Iacoponi.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. And again, thank you for coming here this afternoon and sharing your thoughts. Agenda item 7, Commission correspondence, reports, and general information. First is a report on recent City Council actions.
None for this afternoon.
Very good, thank you. Any comments or reports by the Planning and Transportation Commission members? And none by me. Any correspondence?
None this afternoon.
Very good. And planning staff comments, reports, and updates of current projects.
We'll just welcome back Commissioner Roof and Chair Iacoponi. I'm glad you had safe travels back, and this is just a friendly reminder that the Commission has chosen to declare a summer recess for the month of July. So there will be no Commission meetings in July, and your first meeting will be on Monday, August the 7th. And so enjoy the month, and we look forward to seeing you back. It'll go by quickly, but it'll be a nice break. And that's all I have for this afternoon. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lisa. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.